San Francisco at Arizona. This is a really juicy matchup, and I'm trying to force as many of these options into my starting lineups as possible. Are you doing the same, Tom?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, we've kind of got through the misery of the Saturday games. We've got through the misery of some of these low over under early slate games where we've got backup quarterbacks littered all around the place. And now we get Brock Purdy playing like an MVP candidate. We get CMC playing like an MVP candidate. And we get the Cardinals fresh off the bye when you'd like to think that they're going to come out firing. Kyler Murray has been rushing more than we expected. He's not exactly been lighting it up in the stats column. I think, he's kind of averaged about 25, 30 yards per week, which isn't great. I mean, that's the kind of output you expect from Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow, not from a real dual threat. But perhaps coming out of a bye, he feels fresher, he feels healthier. The big thing for Kyler Murray has been that his completion rate has been much worse this year. He's averaged 60% completion rate compared to a career average of 66%. Is that because he's struggling to drive through with the knee still recovering? Or is that because he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins? Either way, it would be really reassuring to see him come out and pass on this Niners team who have been excellent against the run. They rank fourth best in run defense DVOA. Against the pass, they rank 17th. They've given up the 9th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Hollywood Brown, we didn't see him practicing for weeks. Like, he's really struggled. He's had one game over 50 yards since week 5. The deep ball connection with Kyler hasn't seemed to be there, but you can get at the Niners, and you can get at the Niners on the outside, on the perimeter, and they've got injuries that are racking up. So I feel better about Hollywood. Maybe Trey McBride. He only had 1.5 points in week 4 against the Niners. He only had one target that day. Since then, he averages 7.4 per game. And I don't think you bench him because if you're in the playoffs, Trey McBride has been a big part of why you got there. And then on the Niners side, it just looks like a smash spot for everyone. Deebo, he leads the league in yardage against too high coverage, which is what Arizona play constantly. When they played in week 4, Brandon Ayuk was the wide receiver 8 that week. Purdy, he's at one game below 21 points in his last 5. And now he's playing a Cardinals team who give up the 10th most fantasy points to position. CMC, he had 48 points or so when these teams last met. He's not at the top 6 finish over the last 2 weeks. Now he's playing a team that allows the second most fantasy points to the position. I think all those are complete smashes. I talked on Twitter, and you talked about it a bit as well, about how George Kittle has been better at being relevant in games without touchdowns this year. Last year, he had 6.9 points per game in games without touchdowns. This year, it's up to 9.2 because he's seeing more yardage, more volume. So, whereas last year, this was the spot where George Kittle went nuclear. The Cardinals are quite good at defending the tight end position this year. They've allowed the 7th fewest fantasy points to position, but I'd still start him because we've seen that George Kittle can be pretty decent at any point this year, and the wheels haven't completely fallen off by any means.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting matchup, and definitely attacking as many of those 49ers as you can. On the Kyler Murray point, I think whilst we're talking about, the injury and he's definitely recovering from that, I think that's potentially why you're seeing him scramble less. We've got to remember, this is a new offense. He spent a few years with Cliff Kingsbury. It's going to take him time to get there. He's got a career low turnover worthy play percentage, but is half the big time throw rate that he had in 2021, which is his big breakout season. He's also taking sacks at a career high rate. I just think that he's still finding his feet in this offense. I think he's going to be good for fantasy. We know he is when he's up and running next year. We know that these ACL injuries, you can recover from in a year, but you're not really your true self till that second year. And I think that for Kyler Murray for fantasy this year, it's kind of like he's a back-end QB1. We kind of know that. But hopefully, if you're looking at Dynasty for next year, and there is a little buy window because people are nervous about him going into the offseason and what Arizona decides to do, I think maybe it is a little buy window to go in and sneak in there.
Just one for me, like if the Cardinals go out and get Marvin Harrison in the draft, how much does that immediately increase Kyler Murray's value for you?
Tenfold. The Marvin Harris Jr. hype is absolutely out of control. Okay. I've not fully dove into this year's tape. I've not fully dove into my rookie model and all that kind of stuff. But based on last year's film and my film grading, Marvin Harrison is the highest graded wide receiver in my model since 2013. If he walks into this Cardinals offense and they keep Trey McBride and they keep Hollywood Brown, who fits so much better as that deep threat number 2, Kyler, I think, could potentially be a top 5 dynasty quarterback. Like, it immediately completely transforms this entire offense. That's how good Marvin Harrison could potentially be.